So last night, AEW Dynamite celebrated its second anniversary. I mean, AEW, of course, celebrated its full anniversary earlier this year with Double or Nothing and basically Double or Nothing, which was the first official pay-per-view, if you will, if you count maybe All Out as being like the third anniversary, but of course, because that coincided or originated with All In a couple of years prior. But basically, as far as legit anniversaries for the company as a whole goes, you're looking at basically Double or Nothing, and you're looking at, okay, let me correct myself. Mostly you're looking at the beginning of the year, because that's when the announcement was made. The founding of the company was, announced after Wrestle Kingdom by the Elite, by Cody, by Adam Page, by the Bucks and Omega. So you can basically trace that there. So between the beginning of the year and Double or Nothing is basically when they celebrate the anniversary of the company, because the company came into existence basically in 2019, I think 2019 officially, and this would be its second. I think 2019 to 20 was 1 year, and to 21 is 2. So again, just like Dynamite yesterday celebrated its second anniversary, between the beginning of the year and Double or Nothing is when you had the anniversary of the company as a whole. But the reason I bring up Dynamite, the second anniversary, the reason I bring it up is last night the main event was a Casino Ladder Battle Royal. It basically was a ladder match that had Battle Royal rules. In other words, entrants would come in, at different intervals of the match, depending on the number they drew. And the winner would have to climb a ladder, not eliminate someone over the top rope or pin them or make them submit. To eliminate them, they had to climb a ladder. And last night, a lot of people pretty much felt, and they felt this for weeks, basically. They felt this for weeks, happening. More importantly, they felt it happening when it was announced about a week or two ago that the Casino Ladder Battle Royal was going to take place on the second anniversary show in Philadelphia. A lot of people felt that, knowing how Casino Battle Royals, ladder matches, if you will, are done in AEW, there's always a mystery entrant. There's always a Joker entrant, if you will. Like at All Out, the women had a Battle Royal to see who would get a future title shot against Britt Baker. And Ruby Soho, the former Ruby Riott, was revealed as the last entrant in the Joker. So a lot of people pretty much felt that the most legitimate answer for the men's ladder match, the ladder battle royal, if you will, to earn an opportunity at the AEW World title in the future, a lot of people felt that the most obvious choice for the Joker would be Hangman Adam Page. Now, there were other names that were thrown about. Some say that, they could, or some were speculating and hoping that Wyndham Rotundo, formerly Bray Wyatt, would be the Joker. And there were other names tossed around as well. Some people were thinking Braun Strowman. The real name is Adam Schafer. I guess they would call him Adam Strowman when he comes in, or Braun Schafer, I don't know. But basically a lot of names were being thrown around, but the most unanimous, easy for me to say, but the most unanimously talked about and speculated name as to be the Joker in the Battle Royal was Adam Page above all. And if you had money on Adam Page being the Joker in the Casino Ladder Battle Royal and then winning it, then you won yourself a bunch of money. You basically hit the jackpot, because that's exactly who was the Joker, the last entrant in the Battle Royal. And he basically looked like $1 million. He looked like an unstoppable beast. I'll put it that way. He just ran roughshod over everybody. I mean, yeah, he took a few hits here and there, hits by hits by chairs, hits from from behind, stuff like that, ladders. But overall, he was booked to look like $1 million. I mean, the things he did in this match to ensure victory, you knew from a storyline perspective that he was determined to get this victory. You knew from a storyline perspective that he had to do what it took to get his title shot. And that's exactly what he did. Exactly what he did. he basically, like I said, he ran roughshod over Moxley. Moxley gave him a fight, tried to hurt him, and tried to stop him and everything. But he ran roughshod over Moxley. He ran roughshod over Pac, over Lance Archer, Matt Hardy, Andrade, Orange Cassidy. I mean, like I said, he took he took a few shots here and there. A DDT, paradigm shift from Moxley, a chair from Hardy, and from Pac, stuff like that. He took his welts, he took his welts, if you will. But in the end, he ended up winning the Battle Royal. And how it was done is that him and Moxley were punching each other on the top, and I guess he outpunched Moxley, or basically punch drunk Moxley into oblivion, or basically he outpunched Moxley. Of all people, out of all people on the AEW roster, he did what many few couldn't do. He outpunched Jon Moxley, and by doing so, was able to reach up and grab the chip. Now, storyline perspective, you could say that maybe Jon still could have kept punching, but figured, he wants it more, and that if there's anybody besides himself that he'd like to see take the title off Omega, it would be Paige. I'd be cool with that as a storyline reason as to why Jon didn't keep fighting and all that, or why he allowed himself to just drop off after a few punches, after getting punch drunk into oblivion, or apparently getting punch drunk to oblivion. The storyline there, I think, would be awesome for both sides, like showing a respect between the two. That here's Moxley, who wants to get revenge on Omega and even Callis for what they did to him at the end of last year, taking the world title the way they did. But from a storyline perspective, you could have him be like I said, you could have him be like, he wants that revenge, but he realizes he doesn't necessarily have to have the world title around Omega's waist to get that revenge when he, feels the opportunity presents itself. So to me, honestly, you could look at it either way from a storyline perspective. Like, Adam Page punched him silly to the point that he dropped, or just got to the point that Moxley, from a storyline perspective, realized, hey, Adam's putting himself through all these beatings we're giving him, after he entered as the Joker, that maybe from a storyline perspective, you could, like I said, you can have Moxley be, respectfully, telling Paige, hey, if there's anybody besides myself I'd like to see take that title off Omega, it's you. And then you can have him realize, and then maybe, like I said, you can have him acknowledge that, hey, I realize that I don't necessarily have to face Omega with the title on the line. I just want to kick his ass. I just want revenge. And there you go. That could work too. And I know that sounded more convoluted as it sounded, but again, you could look at it like, Paige wanted it more, and he just outpunched, Moxley into oblivion, punched him silly. Or you could have it be like Moxley realized, hey, this guy wants it more than I do right now, and I don't necessarily need to have the world title on the line to get my hands on Omega. There you go. And the respect between the two is, you can have Moxley be like, look, if there's anybody besides me that I want to see take that belt off Omega, it's you. And that might be what we get. Who knows? Anyway, though, and I know I sound like I repeated myself numerous times saying that, so I do apologize. But when you really think about it, with Adam Page winning the Casino Battle Royal, and from a storyline perspective, finding a way around around the stipulation, I should say, that he agreed to verbally, that's the key there, verbally, between himself and Omega, that if he and the Dark Order couldn't beat the Elite in that elimination match, or that tag match earlier this year, like a couple months ago, that he couldn't challenge Omega for the world title, or at least Omega wouldn't give him a shot at the world title, because he basically lost his opportunity. From a storyline perspective, it'll be interesting how they build around that, because you can have Omega say, yeah, that was a verbal agreement that I wouldn't challenge you for the title. You said nothing. We agreed to or basically, what I'm trying to say is you can have Paige acknowledge the agreement, but also state that it was a verbal agreement, and there was nothing in the agreement that said he couldn't win a casino battle royal or battle royal of any kind to earn a shot, in the future. So you can the way they could build this storyline, the way they can work it out is Omega. You can have Omega out of respectfully acknowledge. Okay, you found. You can have Omega respectfully acknowledge to Adam Page. Okay, you outsmarted us. You found a way around the agreement to get yourself another title shot. Fine, whatever. So you could build the storyline to around that to where Omega's like, look. We verbally agreed you can't get another title shot. You can't get a shot against me, but I guess you found a legal loophole around that agreement, so now you got yourself a title shot. But the question is now, where does this match take place? And honestly, there's no other place it needs to take place at than Full Gear. You held it off, you held it off of All Out because Adam Page wanted time off to be with his wife. When she gave birth to their kid, so that was okay. That was fine. You had a decent substitute in Christian Cage, and you did tease the fact that if Christian can beat him for one championship, that being the Impact World Title, that maybe there's a chance from a storyline perspective he can beat him for the AEW title. But we'll see. However, like I said, Full Gear is right now probably the best option you got. You can't hold this. I mean, let's be honest. Tony Khan knows. If Tony Khan, as reports have put it, has taken control, full control, booking-wise, as to what happens, in that ring, creatively and everything, with input from certain talents, as well as, advice and, help from maybe legends and Hall of Famers to kind of lessen the burden that he would have, the responsibility that he would have. If Tony Khan, though, is overall in charge of everything, if you will, and I think he realizes that if you're going to get people to sell out that Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, then the best thing to do is to give us the match that you didn't give us at All Out, and that's Adam Page, Kenny Omega for the world title. That's what you do. Because honestly, I can't think of a better match to close out the final pay-per-view of 2021 for All Elite Wrestling than that match. I mean, the history, a lot of people have said, tells itself. The storyline, the history between the two, tells itself, sells tickets on its own. I mean, the fact that last year at Full Gear, Omega beat Page to get the shot that he did against Moxley, which him and Callis screwed Moxley out of the title for, at the Winter's Coming event on Dynamite, the Winter's Coming special edition of Dynamite. So basically you can essentially, tell the story of how we've come full circle to where they used to be partners a year ago, then they faced each other for a number one contender shot. Omega won, but then he basically used the shot to screw Moxley and AEW and everything and show his true colors along with Callis. And all that, and then go to Impact, which apparently you could tell the story that this whole thing with Don Callis now getting involved was nothing more than a plan on his part to try to have Impact take over AEW. And I know that would be like adding a little too much to the story, but think about it. From a storyline perspective, it would make sense to where you can have maybe Adam Page or the Dark Order or whoever get Callis to admit that the original plan was for Omega to be a champion in both companies, and then when the time was right, to unify them into the undisputed Impact World title, and thus prove that Impact is better than AEW. Again, I know it sounds like you're adding a little bit more to the story than necessary, but it would make things a little bit more intriguing, because now, by adding that to the story perspective or the story situation, or the storyline between Omega and Page, you're also building up to a potential Impact versus AEW match down the line for promotional brand supremacy. And honestly, that's something that I think a lot of people would love to see. But honestly, though, the main event, whether you are going to add that to the storyline for building up to the main event of Full Gear or not, the storyline itself for the main event, for the world title match, sells itself. I mean, like I said, here were guys that were partners. They faced each other for the title shot. Omega won and then showed his true colors. And ever since then, it's been trying to avoid the likes of, Adam Page and getting in the ring with him with the world title on the line, because maybe from a storyline perspective, you can have it revealed that Omega knows that there are only a very few wrestlers in AEW that can actually match him move for move, in the ring and potentially beat him. And you could list off names like, as we saw at Arthur Ashe Stadium with Grand Slam, Bryan Danielson. You can add CM Punk in there, probably tease a potential Punk and Omega confrontation down the line. Christian Cage to an extent. And then, of course, Adam Page. And by, adding that little scenario to the storyline, at least you make it a little bit more believable and kind of sympathetic for Kenny Omega, because, what you start to realize is that Omega knows that there's going to be a lot of talent that's going to come into AEW that can match him move for move in that ring, to the point that it only takes one mistake on his part for him to lose the match. And when it comes to someone that he was partners with, tag team champions with, a year ago or so, and facing off with that person, you could play it up that, if anybody among all those other names that, I just mentioned, knows him inside and out and what he's capable of, it's Adam Page. And the last thing he needs is for Adam Page to, become the champion, because then it would show that maybe Omega, from storyline perspective, is not as good as he says he is, or is not as good as Don Callis lifts him up to be. But, yeah, the storyline overall, whether you add stuff to it like what I just mentioned, or you just base it around they've known each other since the days in Japan, Ring of Honor, they were tag champs, then they fought each other a year ago at Full Gear, which Omega won, and then got the title shot and all that, and the rest is history. And then we got to see his true colors and everything. If you just want to simplify it and leave it at that, that still will sell out the Target Center. I wouldn't say necessarily sell it out, but it will move a majority of the tickets at the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota for Full Gear. If you want my personal opinion on it, and this being the main event, I have no doubt will really move those tickets. I mean, once you come out and announce that it's signed, sealed, and delivered for Full Gear, Page and Omega for the world title, pretty much if I'm Ticketmasters, doing the online sales, or I'm the box office people physically in person, I prepare myself for a swarm of people to come on the internet, or to come to the box office or wherever the Ticketmaster locations are and buy up the tickets as quickly as they can. Maybe not the complete sellout yet, but just enough to where you realize that by just announcing what the main event's going to be, you're pretty much saying, hey, if we're going to give you this, something we should have given you at All Out, then, hey, we are definitely a company for the fans, and basically by the fan. Basically, what I'm trying to say is by them announcing this matchup as the main event at Full Gear, and those tickets they're going to move online, physically, in person. They're going to move, and I guarantee that. The people that do the ticket, that sell the tickets online and they sell the tickets in person, those people at those places, they're going to be worn out, because they're going to keep asking, okay, what can I help you for? What ticket can I get you for? And they're going to say, and the person's going to say, Full Gear. Then the next person in line, what ticket? Full Gear, Full Gear, Full Gear. And it's all going to be because as soon as Tony Khan makes that announcement, all bets are off as far as ticket sales are concerned. Now, as I was trying to say, because I know I sound like I'm rambling here, and I do apologize. But like I said, it's not entirely going to sell it out, but it'll be majority of the tickets going because of that main event being announced. Now, what other matches could they potentially do at Full Gear to really guarantee a sellout from top to bottom at the Target Center? Well, there are other matches. And I think, they could do, and probably on the verge of doing, just to sell out the Target Center. For one, I think we need Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole. Now, I know you're thinking, well, the building up to Jungle Boy Adam Cole, what would Bryan Danielson have to face Adam Cole for? Well, think about it this way. The storyline is Bryan Danielson has said he will go through every member of the Elite to get another match with Kenny Omega. So what bigger fish in the pond to go up against than Adam Cole? I mean, yeah, you can have him face Matt Jackson. You can have him face Luke Gallows. You can have him face Carl Anderson. That's fine. But I think the biggest fish out of that is Adam Cole. Especially if you have Tony Khan come out and make the announcement that whoever wins the match will get a future world title shot against the winner of Page and Omega. To me, that would be perfect. Now, if you want to add Jungle Boy to the equation, that would be great too, because in that way, you make it a three-way dance, a triple threat. And to me, adding that matchup or one-on-one with Danielson along with Omega Page, you're guaranteed to get more tickets sold. Because if you have a triple threat match between Jungle Boy, Danielson, and Cole with the winner getting a shot at the world title in the future against whoever the world champion is, you know, a triple threat like that alone will increase ticket sales. Will basically have more tickets sold than you can imagine. But if you just go one-on-one with essentially Cole and Danielson, that will move tickets just as much, if not more so. Now true, Danielson and Cole have faced each other before on a big stage. About 2 years ago, during the Survivor Series situation where you had NXT involved, what did they do to get Adam Cole potentially ready to go to the main roster before they held back on him? They had him face guys like Seth Rollins and Bryan Danielson. And he won both matches. In a sense, he won both matches. I think he won the match with Seth. Yeah, I think he did. But he did win the one against Bryan Danielson, who is Daniel Bryan. And a lot of people said that was a good matchup. Now, you take into equation that the Daniel Bryan we got now is Bryan Danielson is a little bit more aggressive. He's got a little bit more free reign to, do maneuvers and stuff that he was very limited in doing in WWE. And then you have him go one-on-one with Adam Cole that essentially, is the same way. He's got that freedom a little bit to do a little bit more than he did in NXT. Then honestly, to me, that's a one-on-one match that's going to sell out tickets, or not sell out tickets, but basically move tickets a lot more than a triple threat match involving Jungle Boy. Not saying that both wouldn't do that, but one-on-one with a shot at the world title on the line, I think that would work. But if you want to add Jungle Boy in there, that'd be good too, because what you do is you have Jungle Boy, potentially be the one that gets the victory over Adam Cole. Like, you keep Danielson strong, but you have Jungle Boy, find a way to catch Adam Cole into the snare trap, have Adam Cole tap out or pass out. You still make Adam Cole look strong, but especially if you have him pass out. But in a sense, you also finally give Jungle Boy another shot at being the world champion. And who wouldn't want to see another Jungle Boy Omega match, or maybe Jungle Boy Adam Page? I'm just saying. So one-on-one Danielson Cole, or triple threat Danielson Cole and Jungle Boy, I think one of those two choices for a co-main event, especially a number one contenders match, future title shot, I think is the best way to go. I'm more in favor of Danielson and Cole, because even though Jungle Boy is not involved, honestly, I think it's the best direction to go. I really do. I think it's the best direction to go in for a one-on-one match, especially if the winner gets a title shot. Now, speaking of Jungle Boy, if he's not involved in a match in a triple threat with Danielson and Cole, then I think the best solution for Jungle Boy is to win a battle royal. And that battle royal ensures him and Luchasaurus a tag team title shot, down the line. You either have him win a battle royal, or better yet, because I mentioned this to Alex last night in a super chat. I said, one of the matches I think they should do is their interpretation or their version of a TLC match, to where you have the Lucha Brothers, you have the Young Bucks, You have the Acclaimed, the Acclaimed, I believe, you want to add them in there. And you have, Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. And if you do a 4-way tag team title match, ladder match, TLC match, whatever you want to call it, with, the Lucha Brothers defending against the Young Bucks, against the Acclaim, or even Gallows and Anderson, because that can create a rift or a dynamic between the Bucks and Anderson and Gallows, as well as you add in Jurassic Express. You want to talk about a show stealer besides the 2 potential single matches that I just mentioned, that will do it. That 4-way ladder match would do it. And honestly, if I'm going to be honest with who I think should be, the 4th team besides the Acclaim, because they are getting a title shot this Friday, which was already taped last night after Dynamite. If I was to choose another team, like I said, I'd go with Gallows and Anderson, who are the current Impact World Tag Team Champs. And whether or not they're still the champs after Bound for Glory, because Bound for Glory happens before Full Gear, I would say that basically you add them in there because from a storyline perspective, you create a rift between them and the Bucks to see who wants to be the tag team champions the most. Like who's willing to potentially stab the other in the back to become the tag team champions. And then by doing this, you essentially start planting the seeds to disband or break down the Super Elite, and then you start building towards a potential civil war between the Elite in the future. A civil war that it looked like we were getting with the Dark Order, but now you could take that storyline, which apparently they're not going to do with the Dark Order, and you can bring it over to the Super Elite. But we'll see. But honestly, a 4-way TLC match with the Luchas defending against Young Bucks, Jurassic Express, and Gallows and Anderson, I think it would be great. I think it would steal the show. And storyline-wise, you have that potential rift between the Super Elite members. Another match that I think, honestly, would work out to sell tickets is Britt Baker either one-on-one with Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's World Title, or you do a triple threat. That's right, you do a triple threat. You do a triple threat match where you have Thunder Rosa and Ruby Soho challenging Britt Baker for the title. Now, you can make it a fatal 4-way and maybe add in Big Swole, because Big Swole has a history with Britt, and that would be interesting to see her suddenly be added into the title picture. Or you could add Jade Cargill, or you could add Jade to the match. Imagine that. I mean, I know people say Jade's a little green, but imagine having her in the ring with 3 women that can carry her, because a lot of people said in that triple threat match she had with Nyla and Thunder that even though she still showed a little greenness, they did carry her to a decent matchup that she did win. So imagine if you put her into a fatal 4-way situation with Britt defending against her, Rosa, and Soho, for the Women's Championship. And storyline-wise, you could have Jade, being the opportunist she is, take advantage of maybe, Britt Baker trying to put on the lockjaw. And then what she does is that she's trying to put the lockjaw on. You have her maybe cut the pin off, throw Britt out real quickly, go for the pinfall, and get the victory. Like you have Jade, see the damage that Britt's doing to either Thunder Rosa or Ruby Soho. As she's applying the lockjaw, and then just when it looks like Ruby or Thunder might tap or pass out, you have Jade come in. You have her break up the submission, throw Britt out, go for the pinfall, and potentially, because she's weakened Thunder Rosa or Ruby Soho so much, you have Jade come in, get the 1, 2, 3, and she walks out with the women's title. And you could basically build a storyline there where now you can easily transition Britt into being the babyface, which fans want her to be because they love the DMD. And you have Jade positioned as this powerhouse heel with Mark Sterling in her corner. And you're off to the races to somebody that can actually carry Jade to a decent match. I mean, yeah, she might still be a little green herself, that being Dr. Britt Baker. But honestly, she's come far enough to where you can have her carry someone like Jade to a decent rivalry especially for the women's championship. So, to me, you either got to go with three different options. You got to go one-on-one, Rosa and Britt Baker, which a lot of people are hoping is the direction they go because of the history there. Or what you do is you go the triple threat route with Rosa, Baker, and Soho, because you got storyline elements there to where, even with the one-on-one situation, Rosa had beaten Britt in the past in that lights out match, so it shows that she can beat her, whether it's lights out or one-on-one or whatever, so she can beat her when it counts. But then if you go the triple threat route, you have essentially a storyline situation there as well, because not only do you have the one-on-one situation, like I mentioned with Rosa and Baker, and the history they have, and the fact that, like I said, Rosa had beaten her before, mostly in the lights out match and everything. But if you go the triple threat route, you can add that element of the one-on-one, the storyline for the one-on-one deal, along with the storyline of Ruby Soho was this close to beating Britt if it wasn't for Britt's lackeys coming in and helping her, or helping her win the match. So, to me, you got perfect storytelling there, either way, one-on-one or triple threat. But then, if you add someone like Jade to the match for a fatal four-way, or Swole, imagine you add Swole and the history she has with Britt. You will have three women, that have a history of Britt basically screwing with them, messing with them, going after her title. And whether or not you want to keep the belt on Britt, storyline-wise, in that kind of match with Swole involved, it tells a lot, because then you could have Britt try to, get herself out of the match while it's going on, allow the other women to beat themselves up, and then try to take advantage and retain. Storyline-wise, that would work. Only for it, from a storyline perspective, to backfire. But if you don't go with Big Swole, and you go with Jade, again, you could tell the way it would work out is you could have Britt locking on the lockjaw on either Soho or Rosa, and just as they're about to tap or pass out, I would go the pass out route. You have Jade, break up the submission, throw Britt out of the ring, and basically cover whoever was, I should say, in the submission, and who's basically near unconsciousness, have Jade cover them for the 1, 2, 3, and Jade walks out with the title, walks out with the title as women's champion. To me, it works either way. So, like I said, you have basically three to... Actually, when I think about it, one-on-one, triple threat, fatal four-way, you have 4 different options. You have different fatal four-way matches you can go with the difference being that one can be Big Swole involved because of a history with Britt, or the other could just be Jade because of, the fact that they're pushing her to the moon. Or you can go the triple threat route with Soho, Rosa, and Baker, or you go the Rosa-Baker route for the one-on-one match. So either way, I think adding that women's championship match, with either it's one-on-one, triple threat, or one of the fatal four-way options, I think would really help sell out basically more, not sell out, but sell more tickets, in the long run, because people would want to see either Rosa repeat history or Britt avenge her loss from that lights out match, or you have, from a storyline perspective, the triple threat, you could have, people wanting to see whether or not Britt can overcome the odds, or if Rosa or Soho will become champion, Soho avenging her loss at Arthur Ashe. Or if you go one of the fatal four-way routes, you could, people will be invested to want to know or see whether or not Big Swole will finally be able to beat Britt when it counts for, with the title on the line, or go the route with Jade to where here's this woman that people are getting behind despite her attitude and heelish demeanor on screen. You could have her, you'll have people behind her because they'll want to see this legit powerhouse potentially win the title because they could see that the company's getting behind her. So either way, I think it's a win-win. I think as well, here now, the other thing I think they should do here for Full Gear, besides one of those match options for the women and the other ones I just mentioned, the other thing I think they need to do a Battle Royal, because that's one thing that really gets people's attention. But it's not just any Battle Royal. You do a Battle Royal where the final 2 women will face each other on the first edition of Dynamite of 2022 on TBS to determine the first ever TBS champion. That's what you do. You do a women's battle royal, a casino battle royal between them, to where whoever the last two are face each other on the first Dynamite on TBS of 2022 to determine the first women's champion. And honestly, out of all the women they could bring in that's currently part of the AEW roster, that they can invite in to be part of the roster or be part of this event that are not contracted to AEW, out of all the women, I think there needs to be two. These are the two, or actually I'll give you four choices that should be the final four to potentially face off in a one-on-one match on the first Dynamite of 2022 on TBS. Here's how it should go. The final four in the Women's Casino Battle Royal to determine who the last two will be that will face each other on the first Dynamite of 2022 on TBS. The final four to me should be Hikaru Shida, Serena Deeb, that's one. Abaddon, I know that's a wild card one, but I think Abaddon would be perfect. Imagine her basically being the champ, basically her being one of the final ones out there, and the potential of what she could do as a TBS champion. Just saying, Abaddon could be one. And then I think, honestly, the fourth one, in my opinion, should be Impact's Deonna Purrazzo. Yeah. I think, honestly, because right now, the way it's being set up, she's going to probably lose that Impact World title to Mickey at Bound for Glory, just the way it's being set up. So I could see Deonna Purrazzo showing up in this Battle Royal at Full Gear and becoming one of the final women in the match, along with Abaddon, Serena Deeb, and Hikaru Shida. And I think the final two that should stand are the two that faced each other last night. Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida. Those are the two that should win the Battle Royal and be scheduled and set and ready to face each other in the finals. Or I wouldn't say the finals, but in the championship match to crown an inaugural TBS champion on the first Dynamite on TBS in 2022. So that's another match I think they should add. A women's battle royal with the stipulation that the final two women in the battle royal will face each other on the inaugural Dynamite debut on Dynamite's debut on TBS on the first Wednesday night in 2022. That's what I think they should do, and I think it would work. I think it would definitely work. Besides that, what else do we have? Oh, we have the TNT title. I don't think we need to put the TNT title on the line here. I think basically what we should do is we should do a blood and guts. Honestly, I think we should do a blood and guts. And I know that's oversaturating and all that. I get it. I get it's oversaturating. But we should do a blood and guts match. But we should add a twist. We should add a twist that the blood and guts match should be competed under MMA rules. In other words, no pinfalls or anything like that, but only submissions or knockouts count for a victory. Submissions or knockouts, no pinfalls, no surrenders, nothing, just submissions and knockouts count as, count for the victory. And it should be between America Top Team and the Inner Circle. That's what I think they should do. I think they should do a blood and guts match. You don't have to do two cages, do one cage. It would be perfect. Or you could set up an octagon-like cage, somewhere in the arena. And this being a special MMA rules blood and guts, I think, between the Inner Circle and America Top Team, I think would be perfect. I think, honestly, it would be perfect. So, to me, that should be one of the attraction matches they do. And I think for storyline purposes, I think you should have a match that takes place between now and then, to where you have a member of the Inner Circle win, and as a result, Dan Lambert himself has to enter the match as a member of America, as a member of the America's Top Team representatives in that match. So, to me, that's what they need to do. An MMA style blood and guts match, either in the ring already set up with an enclosed cage coming down, or you set up a special, I guess you could say uber-sized octagon, with a roof on it or not, for the match to take place in. And honestly, I think it would definitely work. And again, having that kind of a match would really get tickets selling. So overall, I gotta say, I gotta say that I think this match, honestly, not match, but I think this card, just by what I've bringing up, I think it's gonna really sell out, especially with a lot of the matches I think we pretty much know are going to be a lock. But the other matches that I think should happen, I think they are considering, would definitely sell that place out in a heartbeat. And then you got Darby Allin against MJF. Oh, signed, sealed, and delivered there. With Darby Allin and MJF. Oh, that'd be perfect. And you could have Sting and whoever else to watch Darby's back. I don't think that would be a problem either. I don't think that would be a problem whatsoever. And then, of course, you have Orange Cassidy against Matt Hardy in hair versus hair. I'm just saying. So, along with those matches and everything else I just talked about, you're guaranteed a sellout at that Target Center no matter what. Especially, like I said, as soon as Adam Page and Kenny Omega is signed, sealed, and delivered for the event, tickets are going to sell. Tickets legitimately are going to sell just like that. Maybe not totally out, but they will get there. Believe me. And then you add in some of the matches I just mentioned, as legitimate locks or considerations to be, made for the event. And honestly, I don't think you would be able to fit another person in that building. I don't think so. Now you might say, well, what about CM Punk? CM Punk's got to have a match, right? Oh, he's going to have a match. And I think it's going to be against Ricky Starks. I think CM Punk's going to have a match against Ricky Starks, or it could be Miro. I think CM Punk is going to have a match against Starks or Miro. It's going to be one of those two. So, be on the lookout for that when it happens. But overall, just what I brought up here, I could be wrong about some of these matches. Some of them I may not be wrong about because I think they are being considered. But the other ones I could be wrong about. But I'm just saying, based on what's going on right now on Dynamite, Rampage, Dark, and Dark Elevation, I'm just saying I could see a lot of this happening. I could see a lot of it potentially happen. So we'll see what occurs. I mean, you could even have a tag team match with Punk and Brian Cage against Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, or Ricky Starks and Miro. That could work too. But we'll see what they do. We shall see what they do. Heck, you can do CM Punk and Shawn Spears. You want to do CM Punk MJF in the future. What better way to start that path and direction than to have CM Punk against Shawn Spears? I'm just saying. And then maybe you could have Miro, go up against, like I said, you could have Miro go up against potentially Brian Cage. If Brian Cage wins the FTW title or whatever the case is, there you go. I think it would work. I think either way, on how you add these talents, I think will work, I think will work out perfectly. So along with everything I just talked about, MJF, Darby Allin, Spears, Punk, or Punk Miro, or Punk and Cage against Miro and Starks, or whatever the case may be, or Starks and Cage again, because after this Friday they're going to do a rematch, depending on what the outcome was last night on the taping of Rampage for this Friday. So either way, either way, along with everything I just mentioned as being legit possibilities, in my opinion, of being scheduled and booked, that along with those and everything else I just mentioned from a match perspective, you're guaranteed to sell out that Target Center no matter what. You really are. In my opinion. Now, you might say, well, what about Christian Cage? Well, you see, that's where it gets interesting. Because Christian, I think honestly, here's my thought. If they go with either the one-on-one or triple threat, with Danielson and Cole, or Danielson, Cole, Jungle Boy, I think Christian's going to get involved. and I think he's going to turn heel. And he'll either turn heel against Jungle Boy or Danielson. If it's one-on-one, Danielson. If it's triple threat, Jungle Boy. I can see it. Now, they could do a fatal four-way instead, which is another option, and they could have Cage and Danielson and Jungle Boy and Cole facing each other for a shot at the world title. And, you know, depending on the outcome there, I think you turn Cage heel. I think either way. I think if Cage shows up, not being booked on the show, but shows up and tries to save or help Jungle Boy or Danielson, and it costs them the match, and then maybe you have Cage act like he's sorry, and then you have him pull a heelish move and then hit the kill switch on one of them, I think you have a feud in the works right there. You have a feud in the works right there. What's crazy? I'm just thinking about this too. You have Christian Cage defending against Josh Alexander at Bound for Glory. What if Cage pulls out a heelish like tactic to retain, and then tries to blow it off like, oh, I was just in the moment, but Josh is suspicious, and then you have Josh Alexander show up at Bound for Glory after Christian turns his back or turns heel against Danielson or Jungle Boy. I'm just saying. And again, you could either do it and you could either have that happen with Cage coming out to help out, even though he's not booked on the show, or you have it happen after a fatal four-way to where, Jungle Boy maybe runs into Cage by accident, or something happens, or Danielson runs into Cage, and maybe this allows Cole or Jungle Boy to pick up the win. You could have it happen that way too. So again, the scenario I think works out, perfectly for Christian to go heel, whether or not he tries to come to the aid or pretends to come to the aid of Jungle Boy or Danielson, depending on whether or not it's triple threat or one-on-one. I think the picture is perfectly painted for Christian to turn heel, especially if you build off him doing a heelish tactic in retaining his title against Alexander at Bound for Glory. And you try to have him blow it off like, oh, I was just in a moment, I wasn't thinking. And then you have, like I said, Alexander suspicious to where he shows up, to basically run Christian off from basically berating or continuously beating down on Jungle Boy or Danielson. I'm just saying, after the triple threat one-on-one or fatal four-way, if you want to involve Christian in that in that scenario, if you know what I mean. But yeah, Christian, I definitely think Full Gear is the perfect time to pull the trigger on a heel turn for him. And again, you can plant the seeds for that at Bound for Glory, after his match with Josh Alexander. I think that's what should happen. Either he comes to the aid of Danielson in his one-on-one match with Cole, or he comes to the aid of Jungle Boy or Danielson in the triple threat, or you add him in and you make it a fatal four-way with the winner getting a shot at the title. And then because of miscommunication, you have Christian act like he's going to blow it off, and then you have him attack either Danielson or Jungle Boy, and you solidify the heel turn, and then you have Alexander make a surprise appearance to run him off because you've already planted the seeds for the heel turn at Bound for Glory. I'm just saying. And of course, you're going to have Cody Rhodes and Malachi Black. I think Cody Rhodes and Malachi should be lights out. I think it needs to be lights out. It should be lights out. It should be a lights out match where anything goes. And because it's a lights out and anything goes, you still keep Malachi Black strong even in defeat, because now you're telling the story that Cody has to go the route of no holds bar. Anything goes, company not responsible for what happens, just to beat Malachi. And again, it tells a story that because he had to go to this place, to make this happen. Like I said, you keep Malachi strong because it tells a story that in a legit official one-on-one match, he can't beat Malachi. But when there's no rules and nobody's responsible for the outcome or for what happens to the competitors, it works out that way just as much. I think also what you're going to have to do, because you've been building to it for a while, I think honestly you could do Pac and Andrade again. unless they have Andrade and his partner be part of that ladder match, and instead of the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows and Anderson, we have Andrade and his partner. We'll see. But either way, from top to bottom, along with the main matches I just talked about, as I said, along with those that I feel they may or may not add on to, from top to bottom, Full Gear is going to definitely sell out the Target Center. Especially, like I said, with the notable matches I've mentioned, depending on the options they have for those kind of matches they can go with, along with the other matches that I just touched upon, and maybe other scenarios that could take place. There's no doubt it's going to sell out the Target Center from top to bottom. Like I said, the moment Tony Khan makes it official that Omega and Page is going to happen at Full Gear, tickets are going to sell. Especially, and I wanted to mention this as well. I should have mentioned it earlier. Especially if you have Tony Khan make the announcement either through Adam Page or Tony Schiavone. You have Tony Khan make the announcement that he's talked to Scott D'Amore, and the Scott D'Amore who represents Impact, along with the representatives of New Japan, AAA, NWA, and all that, and all the other promotions that they partner with. To me, tickets will really sell in a big way, not only when the match is signed, sealed, and delivered, but when you have Tony Khan make the announcement that he's talked to D'Amore and all the other representatives of all the other promotions that partnered with right now, that if any man or woman, either in AEW, Impact, NWA, AAA, New Japan, whatever, if any man or woman tries to interfere in the match, that there will be severe consequences. And these severe consequences could result in termination, potential banishment from pro wrestling, or maybe potentially management, or potentially temporal management by somebody that really doesn't like the style of the Elite, if you catch my drift. So banishment from wrestling, termination, or potentially a punishment severe enough to where they bring in, let's say, a Jim Cornette to manage the Young Bucks, who's not really a fan of the Bucks, high-flying, mark-out style kind of deal, if you know what I mean. I'm just saying. And then on top of that, you could have the other stipulation being another stipulation added to that, to where if Kenny tries to get himself disqualified or counted out, it'll count just as much as a pinfall or submission. And then you add the third stipulation: if Kenny wants a rematch, he's got to shake the hand of Page, raise it, and acknowledge maybe he still has a lot to learn, or maybe he's not as good as he says he is. And by doing so, you know what you do? You set down the foundation, you plant the seeds for Omega face turn. And what I mean by that is, it's pretty much already being confirmed, and I talked about this, others have talked about this, that you're setting up Cole to take over the Super Elite, the Super Clique. So to me, once you book this match, one-on-one between Page and Cole, not Page and Cole, but Page and Omega for the world title at Full Gear, and you have the stipulations via Tony Khan added of nobody can interfere from any, not just from AEW, but from any promotion, nobody can interfere with what I'm trying to say is, I almost had a brain fart there, guys. But like I said, you can have, like I said, you set this match up, and along with the stipulations that if anybody from AEW or anywhere else tries to interfere, that they could face severe consequences. Then along with that, you add in, the waiving of disqualification countout rule that makes them count just as much as a pinfall submission, and Omega could lose his title that way. And then maybe, big if, or big maybe, you have a stipulation added to where Omega has to shake the hand and raise the arm of Page to potentially get his rematch. To me, by doing all that, you set up the seeds, or you plant the seeds, you lay down the foundation for a Kenny Omega face turn, because as I was trying to say, you're already, and I'm not the only one that's brought this up, you're already planting the seeds for Cole to basically take over as leader. You're already planting the seeds, with him getting victories and all that, and him, at times potentially ignoring the Good Brothers, as well as maybe in a sense ignoring Omega, But as of right now, he's not. But you kind of get that feeling that he's getting to that place. So to me, all the pieces to a redemption story for Omega are set and ready to be put into place. And all you have to do is have Page beat him legitimate one-on-one clean in the middle of the ring at Full Gear, with the stipulations that, like I said, of nobody can interfere lest there be consequences for them. That's what I was trying to say. Lest there be consequences. You have the disqualification or countout rule waived, and then maybe you add in that but Omega can get a title rematch, but he's got to raise the hand and shake the hand of Page as the winner, and maybe acknowledge that maybe he's not as good as he says he is. I'm just saying. But either way, you're setting up after Full Gear, after the Page Omega match, which a lot of people are anticipating Page to win. You're setting up Omega to turn face and Cole to be the heel, and potentially you're setting up the Good Brothers to go face to align with Omega, where you have the Young Bucks align with Adam Cole. And then what you do is, if you're planning to bring Kevin Owens in, if you're planning, I should say, to bring in Kevin Owens as Kevin Steen, which a lot of people are projecting is going to happen, especially with what the Bucks and Owens have done on social media recently. And, if you're planting the seeds for a Mount Rushmore reunion in AEW, then having them turn their back on Omega, maybe on the post Full Gear edition of Dynamite, having them turn their back on Omega and maybe even the Good Brothers, I think would be perfect. And then, to add insult to injury, you have Don Callis align himself with Mount Rushmore of the Super Clique, because you can have him come out and say, I don't want to be associated with a loser who cost me my job and basically ruined everything for Impact, to prove they're better than AEW. I think that would work too. From a storyline perspective, add insult to injury. You have Callis, join them and potentially say he did it because he doesn't want to hang out with somebody that never listens, or somebody that cost him his job, because the plan was for Impact to eventually take over AEW. And he can say Omega and the Good Brothers screwed that up. So there you go. Either way, I think, what I'm trying to say is, either way you look at it, Full Gear is going to be memorable. It's going to be memorable. But really, guys, that's all I really wanted to say on this video. I know I sound like I rambled a lot. This is what happens when you talk unscripted, uncensored, and you do things off the top of your head, or say things off the top of your head. You kind of get a little convoluted, a little tongue-tied. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here, give you my thoughts on how I see Full Gear being set up, with basically some matches that I feel are really being strongly considered to take place, along with other matches that, could take place and potentially will take place. We just got to wait and see the official announcements on those down the line. But let me know what your thoughts are. What do you think about Full Gear and the matches and the lineup I pretty much look at potentially being not legitimately, but close to? What are your thoughts? Comment down below, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Check me out at my Teespring store, as well as check me out at Patreon BW Rosas, and check me out at BW Rosas Discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora, as well as check me out on BW Rosas at Vimeo. And really, guys, that's all I'm going to say. So until next time, take care, God bless, and I'll talk to you later.